y'all, welcome to the Gamble Ramble vlog. With you as always is myself, host and creator Glenn Archie Gamble, a 42-year career musician from London, Ontario, Canada, which is halfway between Toronto and Detroit. And I welcome you. If you're new here to the channel, welcome. If you're a returning visitor, welcome back. I appreciate you either way. And both parties, if you could, we could start out by, if I could ask you to subscribe, you'd really be helping the channel because my numbers are going up and things are starting to get rolling. And it's pretty exciting for a guy like me, where this is basically a part-time hobby, but I really enjoy it, and it's starting to take off a little bit. So thank you for your support, and your further support would be subscribing, which is free. So now that we've gone on to that, if you are new here, you may recognize some of the artists I've played with over the years. I've got some pictures and gold records and awards and stuff behind me there. Most probably prolific of the bands I played with, or best known would be the band Helix, the Canadian hard rock band Helix, who I played with for 7 years. I replaced the great Greg Fritzhines when he left, and they've got 4 gold and 3 platinum records. I've got a gold record above that gold single there is my band The Joys, and above it, where you can't see, is another gold record for Helix right up there. So that would be the best known band. I've also done one-offs playing drums for bands like the Four Horsemen. I've played with Dee Snider of Twisted Sister, Lita Ford. I've jammed with Ace Frehley, and it's been a lot of fun. And now, at this point in my career, I'm basically back to playing cover tunes in bars, and I'm okay with that. And I had an interim where I did cruise ship work, and I'm okay with that too. So, you know, I've been on major labels, and I've played bar mitzvahs. I set out to be a musician as a 10-year-old boy, and I was a 57-year-old man. I am a musician, and I'm standing tall, and I'm proud. So, on the Ramble, we basically talk about rock and roll and pop culture, and music, and books, and movies, and things that catch my eye. And I'm a huge devotee of rock and roll music. And lately, I've been singing the praises of a young musician from Doncaster, England, called Youngblood. His real name is Dom Harrison. I think that this kid has the magnetic appeal and the raw personality and the look and the whole thing to go the distance, you know. And as I've said from the beginning, I don't think he's quite there yet. And the music certainly isn't there yet. A lot of it, I don't own any of his material, to be clear. But I've supported him because I believe he is the potential future of music, or at the arrowhead of the future of the music I love, which is rock and roll. You know, having said that the music needs to be developed, which I stand by, I love the new single that he did with Aerosmith. Yeah, it's very modern sounding with the use of auto-tune and things like that, but we'll get to that later on because it's part of what we're talking about today. So, a lot of people have publicly come out and had a lot to say about Youngblood. And I get a lot of it, but one very vocal person has been the singer Justin Hawkins from the band The Darkness. And Justin has a great YouTube channel called Justin Hawkins Rides Again that I used to be a subscriber to. He's a smart guy with a great, ironically, I can't find the word, great vocabulary. He's intelligent. He's good at putting out this to this, he's verbalizing his thoughts and sharing them. And I like some of his music. A lot of it, novelty-ish, but we'll get to that. Something he's accused Youngblood of, but I'm getting it ahead of myself. So, he came out, well, first of all, his brother came out and criticized Youngblood's appearance at the VMAs, the MTV Music Awards, as we used to call them. And where he appeared with Joe Perry and Steven Tyler of Aerosmith and did a tribute to Ozzy Osbourne, a medley that was put together by the great Nuno Betancourt. Now, Nuno loves Youngblood as well, as Steven and Joe and Ozzy, but we'll get to that again. Justin Hawkins' brother, Dan, who plays guitar in The Darkness, called it, shit and garbage and phony and all these things. And then Justin jumped to his brother's defense when asked because Justin's more high profile, with you being the lead singer and having his own successful YouTube channel. You know, and he called Youngblood a poser, and basically the music was shit, this and that. And then when people objected to that, he backpedaled. He must have legs like an Olympic Ironman with all the backpedaling this guy's doing, saying, no, I just gave an opinion. Well, no, you didn't just give an opinion. You called someone names. And you used your excellent intellect and vocabulary to sidestep, verbally, further insults. You questioned his credibility, you questioned this and that and everything. And so I've already talked about that. And I'll put a link in the description in a previous video on my channel. We don't need to go over all that ground again. The only reason I'm recording right now is 5 minutes into it, getting to the point. As I do, I get distracted. Sometimes I get, what's the word I'm looking for? I digress, as I tend to do. Anywho, the point of today's vlog is that Justin Hawkins has come out again and put another video defending his initial reactions to Youngblood and his defense of his brother. Now, I'm sorry, call me cynical and jaded, but even as someone I have a YouTube channel, and I think that he's milking this because he's been getting a lot of attention. The Youngblood Army, as they're called, his fan base is massive. And Justin's getting a lot of backlash for this, and a lot of people have been tuning into his YouTube channel to hear what he has to say, which is increasing his viewership and his numbers and making him money. And he's a smart guy. He knows that if he whips this horse and keeps it going faster, it's going to create even more views and more action at his channel. And that's what I believe he's doing. He knows. No. None of this would be happening if Justin Hawkins had have just said, you know what, I don't care for this kid. I don't think he's authentic. I wish him well. And that was the end of it. But then he called them names. He called them a poser and undermined his credibility and all this stuff. And then came back when people called him on it and said, just an opinion. Well, no, you didn't give an opinion. You criticized with name calling, okay? So the vlog that I just watched this morning, Justin Hawkins Rides Again, and I'll put the link in the description. You can watch for yourself. As again, where I'm saying he's backpedaling and claiming, you know, he was just merely giving an opinion. But he then goes on to further criticize Dom Youngblood and you know, reiterate his points and back up and provide more evidence in old film clips and stuff that he is just a theater school nerd and not a real rock and roller and so on and so forth. So I'm going to address that today. I made a few points here because I find it goes for smoother viewing for you and smoother filming for me when I do that. Because I do have a tendency to ramble. That's why it's called the Gamble Ramble. So let's start here. As I said, Justin says off the top, I wasn't aware there was a feud between he and Youngblood. It was a reaction, he says. No, it was an attack. We just covered that. You called him a poser. You know, Justin, if you're watching this, and I know, the worst thing you can call another musician, if you're a musician, is a poser. It's like calling someone a punk or a bitch in jail. And if you say that, you say it with intent. It's a loaded word, and you knew what you were doing. So do not just say you gave an opinion. You attacked this young man and his credibility. Now, he goes on to call Youngblood a well-connected and dangerous individual. I'm quoting here. The implication, again, being that it's connections and not talent that got Youngblood to where he is. You know, and people use this fucking phrase, this popular phrase, industry plant, they call it. Not knowing, first of all, it doesn't fucking exist, you idiots. Not just it's people that use this term without knowing what it means. Just stop. You're watching too many movies. You're picturing too many fat guys behind a desk going, imaginary fat guys behind a desk with stacks of cash on it going, oh yes, now if we do this, we can do this and take over the world, you know. Just, the music business is bad, but these imaginary composites you're creating don't exist in the form you're saying they do, okay? Industry plants are not a thing. There are people in the industry that try to utilize rock and roll or pop or whatever to get success. Sure, but I do not believe that Youngblood's one of them growing up in a rock and roll household, which of course Justin does not even go anywhere near because he knows it's 100% credible and true. So, to me, this screams jealousy. When you're saying, well-connected and dangerous individual, I'm assuming what he meant by dangerous was in criticizing Youngblood, he's going to get attacked. So he's taking a victim stance too. Not only is he backpedaling, he's taking a bit of a leave me alone stance, which, you don't join the army and complain about the push-ups, but, it not only screams jealousy, it's another attack. Because you're claiming that he is well-connected and that's what got him where he is and not his talent. The kid can sing. I don't care if he's using fucking autotune. Everybody uses autotune these days. He's a 28-year-old singer in a world full of 28-year-old singers that are being produced by producers who are 28 also or whatever and going autotune. This is what we use. Well, we used to use the SPX 90 and then Echo, but, I understand the overuse of it and whatever is shitty. So I get that.
I want to take a moment to thank someone who's been there for me my entire career. Auto-tune.
But you're grasping at straws now, okay? And here's the thing about the being connected thing. Well, what's wrong with being connected? You were complaining when you were called up to sing at the Taylor Hawkins tribute with Edward Van Halen's son Wolfgang. You got that call because of your connections and your talent, but you're known in the industry amongst musicians and basically respected. Your connections got you that gig. So I have to say that I think a lot of this stems from the fact that I really think that Justin Hawkins is a bit jealous and pissed off that he claims he's not jealous. He said it more than once in this video. Again, I'll put the link in the description. But you weren't asked to be part of Back to the Beginning. And Ozzy and Steven Tyler and all these people are not, and never have, come out and said that you're the next big thing. So I really do think you're jealous of this. You basically have stolen so much from Steven Tyler, Freddie Mercury, and all these people, and you wish that Steven Tyler was asking you to do a duet. I know you do. You can deny it all you want, but I know we're of a similar age. We started off around the same time. You have far more success than I've ever had. But I know we like a lot of the same music. I know how your mind works, dude. Being a rock and roll fan and musician from a certain age. You would kill to do a duet with Steven Tyler. And he didn't ask you, and your jealousy is showing. I'm sorry, but it is, okay? Now, the first thing he jumps into, or the second thing he jumps into in this video, I should say, is the use of pitch correction. Auto-tune, as people call it. You know what? I don't like it either. I'll be honest with you. I am old school that way. I prefer my singers to be able to sing, But here's the thing. We know enough about Dom's voice. He can sing. He's a trained singer through theater school and stuff, He can sing. To say he can't sing is ridiculous, and Justin knows better. The fact that auto-tune is being used, yeah, it's a little disappointing, but again, welcome to Music 101 in 2026. All these young people are using it. Their management and producers and stuff are saying, everyone's doing it, you do it, in your monitors. There's certain things that exist now that didn't exist, that they have to contend with, that we didn't have to contend with. And they're part of the way the music industry goes now. That's just how it is. I wish he didn't have to use it either, or didn't use it, but whatever. He's using it. I don't think he has to use it. And here's the thing, if he didn't use it, you'd be jumping down his throat for incorrect notes. You say you like incorrections or imperfections in music, but you would be looking for something to, criticize this young man for regardless. I truly believe that. Well, after his musical theater pass, that's another thing you touch on in here. Well, again, so fucking what, man? I touched on this in my previous video, again, link in the description. Half of the Beatles, most of the Stones, the Yardbirds, Eric Clapton, Glenn Matlock, all these people, Jimmy Page, went to art school, which is just an extension, another branch of the same tree as theater school. in the UK. You know this. You don't criticize them for having an art background, do you? No, and why should we criticize someone for being trained in singing? I think you have some formal training yourself. You seem like you sing the diaphragm and you sing the proper way. So should we criticize you for that, for being a trained singer? No. I think you're looking for things. This whole theater past, he was an artistic kid that sang, probably danced, and loved to act. Well, like Steven Tyler was a very, we touched on this in the other video too, very vivid imagination and a very active kid. David Lee Roth was the same way. You probably were as a child. And his parents probably tried to channel it by putting him into a place where he could learn about professionalism, theater school. So, weak excuse to use, okay? And not to mention, Freddie Mercury loved the theater. Freddie Mercury, a guy you rip off without reservation. The jumpsuits, the high vocals, and your band loved Queen and you loved Thin Lizzy. That's partly why I like your band and gave them a chance. But don't, Freddie Mercury loved musical theater. He'd probably be doing a duet with, if he were still alive. Sadly, he's not. If he were, he'd be doing a duet with Youngblood, and I believe that. And he'd be also saying that he liked this kid. I think so, but that's supposition. We can't say it, right? And Freddie Mercury appeared with the Royal Ballet, by the way. We'll talk about Dom being in theater. Freddie was carried by ballet dancers in a tutu. But I bet you find a way to find that cool, right? Hypocrite. So, the next thing you attack with him being on this Disney show as a teen, okay? Well, first of all, he's in theater school, he's learning how to sing and act, and he gets offered a paying gig to be on TV. What teenager wouldn't say, fuck yeah? And not only that, he played a musician on the show. He played guitar and sang. Something that he is. So he was playing a character based on something he already loved. And making money, putting it in the bank. What teenager would say, no, I have credibility, I don't want to do that? Come on, man. You're attacking something. If you had been a teenager in your hometown in England and someone comes to you and said, we want you to play a rock and roll singer on a Disney show. Here's fucking tens of thousands of quid. You get to wear leather jackets to play guitar and sing. You'd be like, where do I sign? You would. Okay? And not to mention, fucking criticizing anyone for TV shows. You were on a cartoon series in 2008 or something. What was it called? Free Phonics? A cartoon series. How much credibility is in that? I guarantee you did it to feed your family and pay your mortgage. And I salute you for doing it. There's no shame in that, man. You take a gig that's related to the music industry and the entertainment industry. It's all one to people anyway. You did it, as I said, to probably pay your mortgage, feed your family. Why criticize someone else for taking a TV show at The Masked Singer, dude? I already said that in the other video, but come on. That show is a fucking hot pile of garbage. And I'm sorry, it's not rock and roll at all. But it's okay for you to do, right? Because you're rock and roll and authentic. So, you called Youngblood the future of rock. He didn't call himself that. I've never once seen a quote of him. As a matter of fact, I've seen quotes of him saying the opposite. People are putting the pressure on him and calling him the future of rock. And it's a lot to live up to. But he's never once called himself the future of rock. So, you're calling him the future of rock because it's to your advantage to criticize him with that title. Okay? I think, again, that's stemmed in jealousy, even though you claim it isn't. Yeah, once again, to reiterate, you're calling the guy names. You're saying you're not, but yeah, you call him a poser. We've already touched on it, but come on, man. Own up to it. See, this is the thing. If you had just apologized and said, I shouldn't have called him that. I just don't care for his music, and I wish him well and moved on. I wouldn't even be making this video, but I lost a lot of respect for you, and I also unsubscribed from your channel. Because now you're just lying. Now you're saying, well, I never meant that. I never said that. Yes, you did. You were being critical, you're right. But you were being a dick about it. You weren't just saying it, moving on. And now you're doubling down. Because, controversy. How do you fucking English say it? I don't remember anyway. I am from a Scottish family, so. But how do you're getting more views and more clicks from it. So you're using this to further your career. And again, I salute you for it, but don't call other people out for cheap shots. You're taking some yourself, okay? Dom is a new breed of singer that is out. A new breed of rock star or pop star, whatever you want to call them. It's 2026, right? You know, you're clinging to the past and the version of credibility that you had coming up and that I had coming up. I'm 57 years old and you're in your 50s. We're of an age. Me, you, and your brother have a lot more in common than any of us have with Youngblood, okay? And we came up, again, I touched on this in the other video, the old school way. To form a band, write some songs, get a following, shop your demo, get a record deal. It's not like that anymore. In 2026, social media is king, and auto-tune exists, and all these things. He's part social media, he's part auto-tune, Youngblood that is, part this, part that. He's a 2026 milkshake of Rockstar. Deal with it. Things have moved on. I don't necessarily like it either, but it is what it is. So to criticize him for being 28 years old and being alive and playing the game as it's played, there's no time machine. He can't go back and be a credible artist with a credible past like you have. You know, it's not 1990 anymore. It's 2026, and he's doing things the 2026 way. So now, you're right about one thing. You called him out for saying what he said, Ozzy and James Hetfield are above name-calling. And then you pointed out that Ozzy and James Hetfield have had a lot to say over the years about other artists. And you're right about that. I'm old enough to know that that's true, too. And you are right about that. But I will say this. Dom Harrison Youngblood's version of James Hetfield and Ozzy Osbourne is the modern-day version of both of those artists. And they know better. You should maybe tear a page from this book to publicly put down other artists because there's a backlash. It's rightly or wrongly, it is the modern way. An opinion's one thing. But there's stuff that, like, Metallica putting Kip Winger's picture on a dartboard in their home video, which destroyed Winger's career, wouldn't fly today, rightly or wrongly, because it would be seen as bullying, right? So my point being, the modern James Hetfield and the modern Ozzy Osbourne know that in the society we live in, just shut your mouth and don't, be shitty towards other artists because there's a price to pay for it, and there is. We've moved on, and maybe that is. I don't know. You tell me what you think in the comments, folks. Have we gotten better as people that we don't accept dogpiling on musicians anymore, or are people afraid to speak the truth? I don't know how I feel about that. Let me know what you think. Okay. I think what's going on here is gatekeeping. I think that Justin's guilty of good old-fashioned gatekeeping, and Youngblood's not living up to his standard of what you need to be credible in this industry, so he's shitting on him. And I'm not. It's just an opinion. No. You're not only are you saying negative things like posers, you're also putting up clips to chip away at his credibility. Well, let's find some clips of you from the past. We've all done stuff when we were younger. There's pictures in a file cabinet behind me here that I don't want anyone to ever see. When I was 20, I did stupid shit with public nudity and blah, 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 blah. The point being, we all have a past. You're putting up clips of Dom as a kid to, reiterate your point. Stay classy, So, we're getting on here, but I'm going to try and wrap it up soon. As I touched on in the other video, again, in the link in the description, that I'm sad to see you going after him and calling him a novelty and things like that, when you know how that feels, because you were called a novelty by Rolling Stone and the press and all these, that you were ripping off Freddie Mercury with the jumpsuits and the falsetto, and you were a one-hit wonder, which actually was kind of true. I really loved your song, I Believe in a Thing Called Love. What a fucking great riff and a great vocal by you, But then you started aping it yourself, Love Is Only a Feeling, all these songs. It just got weak, in my opinion. as you like to say, got weaker and weaker. But you're out playing sold out like clubs and theaters because of that hit. And I'm happy for you. I wish I had a hit like that and was getting on a tour bus to go play right now. I'm not. I'm going to play a hotel lounge tonight to buy groceries. But I'm still playing music, you know? But the point is, you know, let's just move on. Because this one, you know, this one's a passionate one. We could do another half hour with me just on this point alone, all right? You know, you said like, I think in an attempt to align yourself with Youngblood, you were talking about the Osbournes and how you know them and have spent time with them and their lovely family, etc., right? You know, I think you're just trying to correct the damage. Like, we're both good guys, you know. We both know the Osbournes, and the Osbournes think I'm cool. And fair enough, maybe they do. I don't know, you know. And then at 17, or pardon me, it's 7 minutes and 50 seconds, I think it is in the video, you say, the reason I'm slagging him off, then you catch yourself and you say, well, I'm not slagging him off. Yes, you are, and you just admitted it. You are slagging him off, dude. You can dress this up with ribbons and bows, and again, your verbose, great vocabulary you have. But at the end of the day, you are absolutely slagging him off, and you're finding ways to justify it, including clips from the guy's past when he was a kid. And his brain wasn't even fully formed yet, you know? So, you're backpedaling, and I think it looks desperate. Don't. Dom, I've already touched this, but no point has Dom ever called himself the future of rock and roll. You're calling him, so you're putting pressure on him. I think that he's part of the future of rock and roll, personally. And I'm waiting for his songs to get better, because I agree with you that they're okay, but there's nothing ground shaking yet. But the potential this kid has is massive. Okay? We do agree that the songs aren't quite there yet, though. I have to agree with you, right? Yeah, and then, of course, after that, you gave him a backhanded compliment by saying, this is the first time we've heard him say anything slightly cerebral. Well, you haven't watched very many interviews with this young man then, because he's very articulate, very much like yourself. Strong opinions, and smart, and a good vocabulary. You're not looking past the trappings, the surface, the shirt off, eye makeup, leather pants. And you know better, because what happened when people didn't look past the jumpsuits and the hair and the falsetto? They wrote you off as a novelty. Well, you're doing the same thing. It makes me sad, because I was a fan of yours. And, you know, saying it's not about jealousy, I'm sorry, it's complete and utter bullshit. You'd be loving nothing more again than being right next to Ozzy on the throne with him telling you, go get America, son, and being asked by Steven Tyler and Joe Perry 6 months ago, I might add. They saw what was coming and said, we're going to hook our star to this kid to do duets. You would love it. You know you would. And we'd be hearing what a great song My Only Angel is if you were the one singing it with them. The whole auto-tune thing, I guarantee you're produced, as great of a singer as you are, and as good a pitch as you seem to have, I guarantee your singers have gone in and corrected notes. So we both know it. Or you've punched stuff in, or they've taken the mouse and moved 1 or 2 notes here and there. Maybe not to the level Dom needs it, but you have also used pitch correction in some form or another, including punching in your career. So again, don't be a hypocrite, right? So, you know, one thing, by the way, you said Joe Perry played bass on Back in the Saddle, and you're waiting to hear that redo that they do, Joe Perry and Steven, with Youngblood. I'm waiting to hear it too. I don't know if it should have been touched. It's one of my favorite Aerosmith songs. Joe Perry didn't play bass on it, though. He played baritone guitar, 6-string guitar, as people call it 6-string bass, but it's not, you know and I know, it's not a bass you play with your fingers. It's a guitar with thicker strings, and it's tuned down, a baritone guitar. That's how he gets that sound on it, but he didn't play bass on it, okay? But, yeah, I'm going to wait. I'm going to withhold judgment on their version of that till it comes out. I don't think it should have been messed with, but maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. I hope so, you know. And I love the Aerosmith Youngblood, well, Aerosmith, Joe and Steven played all the guitars, I believe, and the producer, the keys. Stephen Youngblood did vocals, and Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses played Velvet Revolver, played drums on the track. So it's not truly an Aerosmith track, but it's being marketed as such. I think it sounds like 90s Aerosmith, and they're using modern production techniques like auto-tune and stuff. However, I think it sounds great. It's hooky as hell. I could not get it out of my head. You called it shit. Literally called it shit. I think you're off your rocker, personally, but see, that's an opinion. Okay. So, you talk, like, in closing, I'm gonna, you claim to love 90s Aerosmith, yet you don't like that song, which sounds exactly like 90s Aerosmith to me, at least to me, like Pump era Aerosmith. It could have been on Pump and been in place, and look at the vocal effects Aerosmith used on Love in an Elevator, all those, might have been auto-tune, but you know that they used effects to get those crazy smooth harmonies, right? So, I think you're putting your foot in your mouth. You claim you love 90s Aerosmith, but you don't like the 90s Aerosmith sounding new single they put out. Okay? So, going back to the opinion argument you keep coming back to. And you call people chokeholding, or you say people are chokeholding reactors. You call yourself a reactor, that people are chokeholding you. No. You are not just giving reactions. You're burying name-calling and smarminess in those reactions. And again, you're verbose and smart enough to do it in such a way that it doesn't come across as a direct poke. But I see through it as someone with also pretty good verbiage and a pretty good vocabulary. I see what you're doing, dude. You're dancing around it, but you're taking pokes at this guy and using video clips to do so as well. You could have just wished him well. You could have said, this is not for me, I don't care for it, and moved on. But you didn't. You launched a personal attack on the poser, and then backed it up with video clips. Let's dig up some Masked Singer clips of you, shall we? Or Free Phonics, or your Yahoo IKEA commercials. Let's touch on that. I forgot to even fucking mention that. You were signed before the Darkness had a record deal, I'm assuming, to a publishing company and wrote jingles. There's no shame in that. I got tons of friends in LA that do it. There's good money in it. You did it to finance your career so you could become the rock and roller that you are. But that's sellout, as they call it. It falls in the realm of selling out and commercial behavior. You did it probably again, like you didn't have a family back then, I don't think, but you did it to further your aspirations. Good for you. But you're saying, you're skating on pretty thin ice calling people sellouts when you're doing stuff like that, okay? So, an actual closing this time, no one's chokeholding any reactors. They're just calling you out for not giving opinions, but for being a name caller. I'm sorry, man. I hate to say this because I did enjoy your show and enjoy your music. I still like your initial album is killer. But this is jealousy. It's plain and simple. You keep denying that it isn't. Keep saying it isn't, rather. It is. And you wouldn't keep coming back and defending yourself if it wasn't the case. It is. You were a novelty at one point in time, which you're calling Youngblood. Now your time is over, and you're watching him in the news and all over the place, and you're jealous, dude. I can see it in your face. And you've let me down because you're someone whose music I enjoyed and channel I enjoyed. Now I can't look at you without thinking what a fucking hypocrite this guy is, And I'll close with this. You said it wasn't a feud, yet you had a choice. You could have made a video that said, I'm sorry you all feel this way. I shouldn't have called him a poser. I wish him well. Instead, you picked up the torch and ran with it, knowing it was going to get you views and stuff. Put up video clips of him on Disney and stuff. Dogpiled on even more. Well, I hope you get the views and stuff that you want. But you just lost a fan and you lost a subscriber. How about the way you handled this? Okay, folks, that about wraps it up for today. Thank you very much once again for tuning in. I truly appreciate your support on my little slice of YouTube. And if you want to further contribute, you can press the super thanks button below. Give me a small financial gift of your choosing. Think about it as buying me a coffee and thanking me for road stories and things like that. It helps me move forward. And furthermore, to a point on that kind of thing, you could also check out and subscribe to my Patreon page. And I'll put a link in the description. It's $5 Canadian a month, which is about $3 American. I share exclusive content on there that I don't share on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or any other social media. That's pretty cool. I'll put the link in the description. So once again, all my fellow fans of rock and roll, thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll see you next time. Take care.